and traveling around the world and giving the wonderful classes in the universities and counseling and so many things, and part of the ISKCON GBC, the publishing organizations as well. So we are so fortunate to have Chaitanya Charan Prabhu with us today, and Prabhuji will be here for next 3 days as well. So don't miss this opportunity to hear from him and attentively, and Prabhuji will give a wonderful message of the Janmastami. And thank you so much, Prabhuji, for being here, and thank you so much for blessing us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible to all of you? I know there'll be a little disturbance, but if Hare Krishna. Okay. Is it clear behind also? Thank you. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I'm grateful to be here with all of you today on the occasion of Krishna Janmastami. And I'll speak today in broadly 3 parts. First, I'll talk about what is the significance of Krishna and Krishna's appearance in our life today. And then second, I'll talk about the nature of Krishna as God. And thirdly, I'll talk about what does connecting with Krishna mean. Now, when we want to practice bhakti, or why should we practice bhakti? What does connecting with Krishna mean? Why is it important? So, today is the day thousands of years ago when Krishna appeared in this world. And when Krishna appears, what is the significance? Krishna, he is the supreme being who exists beyond space and time, and he descends into this world, which is finite in terms of space and in terms of time. And why does he descend to the world? It's primarily because of love. The Bhagavad-Gita explains that the world that we exist in is the material world. And beyond this, there's another world, a spiritual world. And the word avatar means one who descends from the higher world to this world. Avatarati iti avatar. And we will see that all of us have an innate longing for a better life and a better world. A better life can be in terms of we want to be fitter, look healthier, we want to have bigger houses. We want to have better facilities. We want life to be better. And not just life to be better, we want the world to be better. So this longing is very deep and innate to us. And in today's world, when we say somebody, oh, there is other world and from that world God comes, you say, oh, who believes in such a world? How do you know such a world exists also? So yes, okay, the voice is going off. Is it audible? Okay. So yes, it's a valid question, but we can see that in today's world, also, there is so much superhero fiction. In ways, if you consider Star Wars, there is another kind of world where people have extraordinary abilities and powers, and there is more excitement and stimulation than the world we are in. And the idea is that in any superhero movie, whether it's an ordinary movie or other extraordinary movie, there are people who have extraordinary powers. So attraction to the supernatural is natural to the human heart. Attraction to the supernatural is natural. And the idea is, why is it natural? Same people who might be super rational. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in this spiritual world stuff. But those same people, when they sit down to watch a superhero movie, they'll suspend their disbelief. Just watch. Okay, in Star Wars, there's a force. You can choke a person for the force. You can, somebody's falling down, you can hold them up. Every superhero has some mystical power. And people accept that. One famous author, he said that there's only one difference between reality and fiction. And that is, fiction has to make sense. Life sometimes doesn't make sense. What's going on in life? But in fiction, if it's supposed to be good fiction, there has to be some consistency. There has to be, okay, this is the power this person has. Suddenly that person gets some other power. Hey, that doesn't make sense. So the point is, from the Gita's perspective, this is the material world and this is the spiritual world. But when we don't know about the spiritual world, see, the nature of the human heart is that it is not satisfied with what our world offers us, what the material world offers us. So we want something more. And that something more, for that, we create a virtual world. We create fantasy worlds, whether it is novels, through TV series, through movies, through sometimes multi-generational fictional characters and narratives. So Star Wars has been going on for decades. Superman, not that super now, but started in the 1920s. Went on for decades. So the idea is, from the Bhagavad Gita's perspective, our heart actually longs for the divine, actually longs for the spiritual. But not knowing about the divine, not knowing about the spiritual world, same attraction is directed to a virtual world. And when there are these Comic Cons and like that, thousands of people go, spending money and time and energy. Why? Because attraction, supernatural, is natural for us. Now, does that mean that, okay, there are superheroes who are basically products of fiction? And Krishna is also another superhero, is a product of fiction. Well, no, it's not that simple. Because what superheroes can offer us is entertainment. What Krishna can offer us is enlightenment. No, what Krishna offers us is not just another world to experience, okay, forget the world and be entertained. It's not like that. We can actually experience a higher reality, enter into a higher reality, and experience that higher reality even in this world. So the Gita doesn't just offer another world view. It offers us another world to view. Another world to view. It offers us a process by which we can do that. So when Krishna descends to this world, what is he doing? He is actually reminding us of that world. When Srila Prabhupada would speak on the Gita, there are some verses which he would focus on quite substantially. In the broader Hindu or Indic society, the 4.7 and 4.8 in the Gita are quite prominent. Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Krishna descends to establish dharma in the world. Srila Prabhupada would quote this verse, but Srila Prabhupada would quote the next verse much more. 4.9 is Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. So why this? Why was this verse quoted more by him? Yes, Krishna does come to establish order in the world. But the nature of the world is that from order, disorder will come. Things just keep degenerating. That's just the way things are in the world. So Krishna came and established order thousands of years ago. How much is that of relevance to us? So Krishna establishes dharma in the world at a particular time in history. But by displaying his pastimes, by displaying his loving nature, he offers a legacy that can attract humanity for all time. So Krishna's purpose is twofold: to establish dharma in the world and to establish prema in the heart. To establish love, bhakti, love of God in the heart. So the first purpose is contextual. The second purpose is eternal. So we are all longing to love and be loved. And while there can be many different objects of love, they can all provide us different degrees of satisfaction. But we all long for an eternally fulfilling object of love. So Krishna comes to remind us of that this is what you are longing for. This is the world you belong to. This is the world you long for. Come to me. Turn towards me. Offer your heart to me. So Janmastami is not just another festive day in the calendar. So many days are there. Yes, each day might have its own importance. But Janmastami, Krishna's descent to the world, speaks to our heart and our life's deepest longing. So Krishna comes to provide us the happiness, the fulfillment, the joy that we are always longing for. And in that, this is a supremely important festival. Not from a religious perspective that this particular community worships Krishna, and for them this is a festival. Yes, it is for them, but it is for everyone also. So that's the point. Krishna, first point, Janmashtami is a reminder and a pointer. Sometimes put it like Janmashtami is like a trail, and a Janmashtami offers us Krishna's pastimes. We are reminded about them. And then by that, it's a reminder and it's a pointer. And this is where we belong to, and this is how we can go there. So when we immerse ourselves in Krishna during Janmashtami, we hear about Krishna, we hear his kirtans, we hear his katha, then that helps us direct our heart towards him. So that's the first point. And the second point is that Krishna as God is special. Why is that? When European colonialists came to India, and they had this idea of God as some majestic, stern being staying in the clouds and judging people and sending thunderbolts down to cast the sinful to hell. They came to India, they came to the Mathura area and North India, in Bengal. They saw these pictures of this sweet little boy crawling on the streets, crawling on the floor, with butter on his lips, butter around his mouth, hands in a pot. See, who is this? This is God. What is he doing? He's stealing butter. He says, they just got intellectually short-circuited. This couldn't comprehend. First of all, how can this small, tiny boy be God? And if he's God, God is morally flawless. Why would God steal? And if at all somebody has to steal, why steal butter? What's so special about butter? So it is just beyond comprehension. So what happens is that Krishna is a God who does not delight in his godhood. Krishna is a God who delights in the full gamut of relationships. One of the ironies of human life is that everybody wants to become famous. People want, how many followers do I have on social media? I have 1,000 followers, I have 10,000 followers, I have 50,000 followers. See, Facebook often becomes the shelter of people who can't face books. The Facebook can have good content, but it's all short. So I read 10 Facebook posts and I think I'm expert on the subject. But to sit down and read a serious book, it's not easy. So, but the point is that we all want fame. But one of the great ironies is that the more people become famous, the more they become lonely. They have fans, but how many friends do they have? How many people can they trust? So Krishna is the supreme being, and he has greater fame that anyone can ever have. But what Krishna longs for is a full gamut of relationships. And that is why to enjoy the full gamut of relationships in Krishna Leela, in Krishna's pastimes, he conceals his godhood. He conceals his godhood because if God is the parent of everyone, God is the all supreme being, then how can he enjoy the love of a mother or a father? But he wants to enjoy that. If he's God, how can he enjoy the love of a sibling? But he wants to enjoy that. So he wants a rich gamut of relationships. That's why Krishna is not just a God who delights in his godhood. He delights in the reciprocation of love. And that's why he puts himself in a seeming subordinate or non-godly position, non-godlike position. A small baby, how can this baby be God? But it's not just this. Now, when we talk about love, how is love developed? Now, one of the key things for a loving relationship to deepen is a sense of vulnerability. Vulnerability means that a person does not pretend that I am all powerful, I am perfect, I know everything. That a person is ready to admit their problems, their concerns, their fears. So in general, when we live in the world, we understand, a little experience in the world also helps us understand that actually I can easily be misled that the world is a tough place. People can exploit me. So we often put on a mask, we often put on a guard, and we try to act tough. And that is required in some ways because people can exploit our weaknesses. But we can't always stay tough. There's a time when we need to lower our guard. And it's only when we are vulnerable that we can actually have deep relationships. See, in every relationship, say we want, if we are relating with someone, we want that person should love us. But that person should pay attention to us. But for a relationship to be really deep, we want that we have a need to feel needed. That, okay, I can contribute something. Not just this person loves me, but I can contribute something to this person. I can help this person. So that if that need to be needed is fulfilled in a relationship becomes very deep. But if our spiritual master or some very exalted authority, and they're expert in every field, and whenever we go to them, whatever problems we have, they just answer all the questions. They have all the answers. We're quite impressed by them. But then one day we go to them and they start sharing their heart's concerns. We are facing this issue and I'm not sure. Should I do this or should I do that? If you do this, this will happen. If you do that will happen. No. Initially, it might be a little jolting. Oh, I thought you were perfect. And now you also have insecurities. You're not sure. Are you all that you thought? I thought you were. At a superficial level, we might lose respect. But at a deeper level, what we understand is that actually that person is sharing their heart with us. And that will bring a greater level of intimacy. a greater level of closeness in the relationship. If we feel that a relationship is not progressing nicely, then lower our guard, lower our masks. Be vulnerable, and that will bring us closer. And that same thing applies in our relationship with Krishna also. Now, Krishna, in order to have a close relationship, he is invulnerable, but he acts vulnerable. Now, if we look at, again, going back to superheroes, if we look at the history of Superman, the Superman started in around 1929, 1930. America was in Great Depression, and they wanted some hope. There'll be some superhero will come and rescue us. So the first Superman fiction came out in the comic early 1920s. It didn't work. And late 1920s, it started taking off. And as it started growing more and more, what happened? Subsequent comics writers, they started making Superman more and more powerful. So eventually, it became so powerful that just by glancing, he could just burn and destroy planets. And a curious thing happened. As Superman's power increased, his popularity started increasing. Because what happened is that if he's so powerful that he can do anything, then there is no suspense. There is no excitement. There is no tension. So then those creators of Superman, they brought into prominence the whole idea of kryptonite. So how Superman is vulnerable, he can go completely powerless by that. So they brought in vulnerability, and again the popularity started going up. So now if you see most of the superheroes, they are powerful, they have extreme powers, but they also have some flaws. Now Krishna has no flaws. But in order to have the excitement, in order to have the intimacy of the relationship, Krishna acts as if he is vulnerable. Mother Yashoda feels that if I don't feed Krishna, Krishna will die. And that deepens her relationship with Krishna. And Krishna actually acts, I'm hungry. He acts like a small, mischievous little boy. I'm hungry. And he says, I want food. So what is Krishna doing over here? Krishna is having a full, rich relationship with his devotees. And is letting the devotees have a full, rich relationship with him. And that is the completeness of the revelation of God in the Bhakti tradition. That he is supremely invulnerable. But yet, he acts vulnerable. Because we will see, at one level, if you consider just the pastime of the appearance of Krishna, I'll take two pastimes and this to explain this point. See, Krishna, when he appears, first he appears with Shankha Chakra Gada Padma. When he's born, he's an extraordinary child. Now, Krishna, if he could appear in the prison cell in his full majesty, if he could appear like that, then he could have also mystically transported himself to Vrindavan. Isn't it? So what Krishna does is, when his parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, are terrorized by the activities of Kamsa, and they are fearful, what is going to happen? Now, this child is going to be born, he's the 8th child, will he also be killed? And we have waited for so long for this child to be born. What will happen? So the first thing that Krishna does when he appears is, he manifests his greatness. I'm God. So he's a child who has 4 arms, he has the paraphernalia, he has beautiful hair, he's wearing pitambara clothes, he has bracelet, armlets, and he has waist belts. So he's fully adorned, and he speaks in an adult voice. So he reassures his parents that I'm God, I'm here. Fear. So he reassures them. But then what he does is, he transforms into a small baby. And then before transforming, he tells Vasudeva to take me to Vrindavan and place me over there. So when he's going there, he's thinking, this is my service to Krishna. This is my child. I have to protect him. So for Krishna, the primary purpose is to reciprocate love. And the key thing is his greatness is used to enhance his sweetness. His Aishwarya is not the prominent thing. His Aishwarya is used to enhance his Madhurya. That the Madhurta in his relationship. If we consider Krishna lifts the Govardhana hill. Somebody may ask, how can anyone lift a whole hill? It doesn't make sense. So even if someone could lift the hill, say if I just want to lift even this little phone on one finger, I have to find the center of gravity and place my finger at the center of gravity, then hopefully it will balance. So how did Krishna find the center of gravity to put his finger below the center of gravity of Govardhana? Well, Krishna does not have to find the center of gravity because he's the source of gravity. So he's the source of gravity. So the Maya Dakshena Prakriti. So when Krishna performs miracles, they are not against science. They are above science. They're not against, they are above. We accept that science works. But there's something works beyond that also. But so this is the manifestation of Krishna's greatness. Krishna lifted an entire hill with his little finger. But if you see in the bhakti tradition, the devotees don't focus too much. Oh, Krishna lifted it Govardhana hill, therefore he's God. That's how you should accept him, have faith in him. The devotees, the bhakti tradition, focus more on, okay, after lifting Govardhana hill, what did Krishna do? Krishna had sweet, loving exchanges with his devotees. My mother Yashoda tried to feed. The other devotees thought, oh, this Govardhana hill will fall down. We also have to support. And Radharani came over there. Krishna got excited. And then the Govardhana hill started shaking. So the whole focus is more on how there was sweet, loving reciprocations between Krishna and his devotees. The emphasis was not that Krishna did something miraculous and lifted Govardhana hill. That is there. But the more important thing was that Krishna reciprocated love with his devotees. So in we don't focus so much on God demonstrating his greatness as in God giving us opportunities to relish his sweetness. And that brings me to the last part of our talk. That first I spoke about what is significant Janmastami. Second is what is special about Krishna as God. And the third is that when we practice bhakti, what exactly are we trying to do? Now we all, when we have problems, we may pray to God and please solve these problems. When I was in India, I used to live in Pune about 20 years ago. So the temple at that time was right next to a school. Now, most of the kids from the school not come to the temple. But in the month of April, all of them would start coming to the temple. Now, why is that? Like April is the month of bhakti. No, April is the month of exams. So at that time, they would remember, God, help me. I had an old friend who told me that, I used to have talks with him. He was quite atheistic and he would never be interested. But recently he contacted me some time ago and he said, I want to give some donation to the temple. I said, really? What happened? He said, you are quite atheistic. He said, yeah, I'm still atheistic. But I thought, actually, I'm starting a new business. So I thought, if God exists, he should not create some trouble for me. So I'm giving some donation. So the idea is, many people think of God in terms of, I have some problems and he should intervene miraculously and solve those problems. Or maybe if I don't worship him, he will create some problems for me. This vision is centered very much on God's greatness and, okay, God should solve problems for me. If he doesn't solve problems for me, what is the use of even worshipping God? But in bhakti, our focus is not so much on getting God to solve our problems as it is on connecting with Krishna. Now, what happens is when we focus only on solving problems, okay, I pray and this problem is solved, therefore God is good. I pray and this problem is not solved, therefore God is not good, or God doesn't exist. That is a very superficial level of approaching God. But in bhakti, broadly speaking, when we connect with Krishna, it is for three purposes. It is to feel God's presence. It is to find God's purpose. And it is to be filled with God's power. Presence, purpose, and power. So if we see, going back to the appearance of Krishna, Vasudeva and Devaki had trouble. They had been imprisoned and Krishna appeared. But Krishna didn't tell them, okay, I'll kill Kamsa and the problems will be solved for you. He just came and Krishna went away. Krishna went to Vrindavan and he didn't tell how soon I'm going to come back. But what happened was, just by appearing over there, they were enriched by Krishna's presence. So the idea of feeling God's presence, what does this mean? That when we practice bhakti, when we chant the holy names, when we hear Krishna Katha, when we come to a temple and take darshan of the Lord, we all can feel the presence of something special. And the vibes at this place are something different. We feel as if we are ushered into the presence of some reality far bigger than ourselves. And just divine presence calms us down. It just helps us recognize that all the problems that I'm getting worked up with, they're not that big. And each one of us, whatever be our situation, we pray to God for solving our problems. Sometimes our problems may be solved, sometimes our problems may not be solved. But if we pray so that we can connect with Krishna and feel his presence, we will all sense something sublime, something special, and that will calm us. That will give us a sense of peace, a sense of security. Jitatmanaha prashantasya paramatma samahitaha shitoshna kadukkeshu pathamana pamanayo. Says that when paramatma samahita, when we experience the presence of Krishna in our own hearts, this is 6.8 in the Bhagavad-Gita, 6.7. So he says that what happens is all the ups and downs of the world, sukha, dukkha, shitushna, mana, apmana, all of them, they're not that big, they're not that important. So the experiences of this world can sometimes shake us up. They can jolt us. But when we experience Krishna, we experience something so sublime that, okay, all these experiences, they're not that big. Suppose somebody has $5 and that's all the money that they have. And if somebody tries to steal $5 away from them, they'll fight for it with their life. They'll feel as if I'm losing. Or if they have only $5, then they see, oh, there's $5 note over there. There's a big crowd, but they'll try to pounce and take the dollar note. If it flies away, they'll chase after it. But suppose somebody has $5 in their pocket and they have a waist belt where they have $5 million. Then whether they lose $5 or they gain $5, that won't make so much difference. They'll be careful, but they won't be obsessed. So similarly, when we experience the presence of Krishna, that is like $5 million. And that experience so pacifying, so enriching, that all the experiences of the world, whether it is pleasure, pain, honor, dishonor, they're like $5. We don't get so disturbed by them. So if we connect with Krishna just to be in his presence, now we may not even understand that actually it is Krishna who is present. It is just we will experience some calmness, we'll experience some serenity. It's like when a small baby is growing up, the baby may not even know that, okay, this person is my mother and this mother loves me. and mother cares for me. Even the baby is taking mother's breast milk, yes, so there's something nice and soft and something nice comes from it, I'm drinking it. But gradually, as the baby starts growing up, I said, this is my mother. She loves me, she cares for me. And then, say the baby is sleeping and suddenly the temperature drops and the baby starts shivering. The mother comes and puts a comforter, a nice thick blanket around the baby. Now the baby is still asleep and the baby has not opened her eyes and seen, this is my mother who has put the comfort around me. But the baby can feel the comfort. The baby can feel the coldness going away. So for all of us, we are like spiritually asleep. We are in a spiritual infancy. We may not see Krishna, but when we try to practice bhakti, we will experience that comforter around our consciousness. We will feel whatever agitation is there, it will go down. And just as the baby is not seeing the mother, but the baby understands from the comforter's cooling, warming presence, this is my mother is here, my mother loves me. And she's expressing her love for me by putting this comforter around me. Similarly, we all can experience Krishna's presence through the calmness, through the serenity, through the security that comes when we just come in his calm in the objects that manifest, come in the proximity of the objects that manifest his presence. When we participate in kirtan, when we hear katha, when we do puja, when we take darshan, when we come in satsang, we can experience Krishna's presence. So if we are focused too much on problems, then we will not sense his presence. Because all that we are focused on is my problem solved or not solved, problem solved or not solved. That's why we need to be, Prabhupada said, be Krishna conscious, not problem conscious. We have problems, but focus on become conscious of Krishna. The first level all can experience is his presence. And the second level is that we experience or we find his purpose. Purpose means that God is not just like an active background cosmic light. God is a living, loving person. He has a purpose for the world and he has a purpose for each one of us. Our existence has cosmic intrinsic significance. Each one of us matters. And when we talk about purpose, what does it mean? That if we are just alive right now, we all can say, I have this problem in my life and I have that problem in my life, I have that problem in life. Yes, we all can look at many problems in our life. But if we are just alive, then there is more right than the wrong in our life. If we are, there are so many people at our age, they're not even alive. And if we are alive, that means Krishna is not yet done with us. Krishna has a purpose for us. And we say, what is Krishna's purpose? How do I know what is Krishna's purpose? Well, at a basic level, Krishna is the well-wisher of everyone. Krishna wants the good for everyone. So, what is Krishna's purpose? Krishna's purpose for us is that whatever situation we are in, we act in ways that makes things better and not makes things worse. In every situation, Krishna, how can I be an agent of good in this world? We have that prayerful attitude, we will be acting in harmony with Krishna's purpose. And if we connect with Krishna more and more, see, we all know certain things which we should do, which are good for us, and certain things which we know which are not good for us, we should not do. And in between, there will be a lot of hazy area. What should I do? What should I not do? But the more we act according to what we know is good for us, the more we show Krishna that we want to know his purpose. And he will guide us. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. So to know Krishna's purpose, we don't need some mystical revelation. Krishna came in my dream and told me do this. Okay, that may happen, but just in our situation, Krishna, how can I serve you? How can I act in ways to make things better? In this relationship, in this situation, And this is why understanding Krishna's purpose requires humility. Now, if you envision a pendulum, you can say that one extreme of the pendulum is ego. The other extreme of the pendulum is insecurity. So ego says, I will do something wonderful. Insecurity says, I will never be able to do anything wonderful. And in this way, we just get caught. I will do something wonderful, I'll never be able to do anything wonderful. But humility means, I will do something meaningful. Whether it will be wonderful or not, that's not my control. But I can do something meaningful. I am a part of Krishna. Let me play my part. Each one of us in our daily lives, we all can do something meaningful. We can just speak a kind word to others. We can offer a gentle smile. We can offer a helping hand. We can share whatever wisdom we have, whatever resources we have. What happens is we become obsessed with doing something wonderful. If you do it, we'll become proud. If you're unable to do it, we'll become depressed. And this is the manic depressive kind of personality. But if we focus on doing something meaningful, then we will be a part of Krishna's purpose. In every situation, can I do something meaningful? Yes, we can. We can chant Krishna's name. We can do some service. We can act with kindness in our various relationships. We can participate in Loka Sangraha, maintaining the world by doing our responsibilities properly. So Krishna's purpose is, we try to become an agent of good in the world. And we will be able to do it this better and better if we connect with Krishna. The more we come in Krishna's presence, the more we'll be able to act according to Krishna's purpose. And that brings me to the last part. So in some situations, in almost all situations, we can feel Krishna's presence. But sometimes the purpose may not be so clear. What does Krishna want me to do in this situation? But just stay in Krishna's presence and do what we can. Gradually, the purpose will become clear. The purpose doesn't have to be a clear, lifelong path. Just be one step ahead. Let me take this one step in the service of Krishna, the next step will become clear. And that is the third part, that is power. So power means that Krishna, as I said, we can do something meaningful, that is humility. But Krishna can empower us to do something wonderful. Any one of us, he can empower us to do something wonderful. And Krishna actually wants all of us to do wonderful things. He wants all of us to manifest our full potential. But he doesn't want us to go away from him in doing wonderful things. If we just focus on doing wonderful things, and we forget Krishna, then what will happen? It'll be a wonder that will keep staying fools. We'll just stay fool life after life after life. We'll not connect with Krishna. So Krishna can empower each one of us. If you consider the example of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan in Krishna's presence, visiting all the various temples, staying in the Samadhi of near the Samadhi Mandir Rupa Goswami and other Goswamis. He was in their sacred presence. When he left Vrindavan, actually he did not leave Vrindavan. He carried Vrindavan in his heart. That divine presence was with him. And why was he leaving? Because there was a divine purpose. He wanted to share Krishna's message with the world. But it was not that he had a clear vision. Oh, I'll come to America, I'll go to New York, I'll go to the Lower East Side, I'll meet these people. Prabhupada was trying. This works. This is good. Let me try this. So Prabhupada says that a devotee may be perplexed, but a devotee is never discouraged. Perplexed means, okay, what is Krishna's purpose for? What does Krishna want me to do in this situation? It's not clear for me. But discouraged means I don't want to do anything at all. No. So, but Prabhupada kept doing small things. Even when a person who would be like a hippie, who was from a society's perspective completely worthless, that person would come to meet Prabhupada. Prabhupada would offer his full attention to that person, as if this person was the most important person in the world. Why? Because Prabhupada was focused on doing something meaningful. Okay, this person has some interest in knowing about bhakti, about Krishna. Let me offer him Krishna in the best way possible. And then what happened? Prabhupada kept doing small, meaningful things in whatever way he could. And by Krishna's extraordinary power, Krishna translated or transformed those meaningful things into something incredibly wonderful. So Krishna, Prabhupada built 108 temples across the world, wrote 70 books, traveled across the world 14 times. It's unprecedented in the history of the world practically. So much outreach at such an advanced age to an audience that is so utterly different from the teacher's audience. So Prabhupada, that is Krishna's power. And Krishna can empower each one of us. And that empowerment, when we acknowledge our power is Krishna's power, then Krishna's power becomes our power. When we acknowledge that our power, that my abilities, my talents, my resources, they are not actually mine. They are Krishna's. They are gifts given by Krishna to me. That is humility. When we acknowledge that our power is Krishna's power, not just intellectually say, yeah, it's all Krishna's, but actually internally acknowledge that. Then Krishna says that, we are not attached to this. Then Krishna's power will become our power. And Krishna has omnipotent power. How much good can Krishna do through each one of us? None of us knows that. But what we can be sure is that Krishna can do through us far more than what we have been doing ourselves. If we look at our own lives, we have achieved something worthwhile in our life, materially, spiritually. And if we look at our own lives, we have often been our worst enemies. We have acted half-heartedly, we have sabotaged ourselves, and yet we have come this far. So, when we were acting against ourselves, still Krishna has got us this far. He has not brought us this far to abandon us. No. He has brought us this far because he wants to take us all the way. He wants to empower each one of us. And that, if we focus not so much on is Krishna solving my problems, we practice bhakti, we focus on coming in Krishna's presence, finding his purpose, and opening ourselves to be filled with his power. Then what Krishna can do through each one of us, what empowerment can he do to us, what good he can do through us, that discovering that can be our life's greatest adventure. So Janmastami is a call to that divine adventure. The adventure of opening ourselves to Krishna's presence, Krishna's purpose, and Krishna's power, and dramatically transforming our life. Vasudev had been for years in that prison and he couldn't come out. But when he agreed, yes, Krishna, I'll take you to Vrindavan. He didn't ask how. Then all the shackles fell off. The guards fell asleep. The doors opened. Through the Jamuna, I find a way to go across. So Krishna is just as Krishna empowered Vasudev to go a long distance. Krishna empowered Prabhu. Through the storm, Vasudev went across the Jamuna river. Through the stormy seas, Srila Prabhupada went across the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean and came to America. Through whatever storms might be there in our lives, Krishna can guide us through. Krishna wants to guide us through whatever in our life. But we need to just connect with him. And that reminder, that opportunity is what Janmastami offers us. So let us all pray to Krishna that he help us stop worrying, stop being problem conscious, and that may we be conscious of Krishna, may be conscious of his presence, his purpose, and his power. And let us become instruments in his glorious hands. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki, Shri Janmashtami Mahamahotsav ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande. I'll quick announcement. I have written some books. Hare Krishna. So much of what I spoke today was from two of my new books. I have written about 27 books. Out of these, 4 of them are. So this is Bhagavad-Gita Insights, and this is Relishing Bhagavad. So this approach is that both of these have 100 articles with about 80 diagrammatic illustrations to explain the concepts. Bhagavad Insights approaches the Gita from a rational perspective. When we read the Gita, the typical questions that may come, when Krishna talks about detachment, how can we be responsible and still be detached? Won't we become cold-hearted? If everything is controlled by God, then do we really have free will? If God is equal to all, then why is he on one side, the Pandava side, not the Kaurava side? So questions like this are answered in this book. Each article is like a question. And this is Relishing Bhagavad Gita. This approaches the Gita from a relational perspective. How the Gita is not just philosophy. It is actually love of Krishna for Arjuna and love of divinity for humanity expressed through philosophy. And so if you want to know the bhakti dimension of the Gita and nourished in bhakti, this is a very suitable book for that, Relishing Bhagavad Gita. And so these two approach from the rational and relational perspective. This is from an applicational perspective. 55 reflections for daily mindfulness. So there are sections on how to grow through adversities, how to deal with temptation, how to be more non-judgmental in our relationships, how to be more sensitive in our speech, how to see spirituality, see God in our daily lives. There are about 50, 60 articles on each of these topics. So the table of contents itself is 20 pages here. So you can just glance through the table of contents, whichever article intrigues you, you can read that. This is spiritual nourishment is for a whole year. And this is 365 quotes inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. It's a calendar, desktop calendar. So this is, each quote is inspired by a particular verse of the Gita. And if you look at if you Google the quote, it will take my website, Gita Daily, where you can find an article explaining the quote and the words, but the quote is explanatory in itself. And this is a very good gift to give to your friends and colleagues, or even to keep in your desk workplace. So it's a non-intrusive way of introducing spirituality. Basically, see the quote. What is this quote about? And then you can start a philosophical discussion. So all these 4 books are available, and I can sign them also if you want. So each of these three is $15 each. This is $25, but if you take all of them together, it's for $60. So thank you very much. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. I Gaur Premanande.